Hey guys, Ryan Dawsey here, and in today's video we're going to be a little bit unconventional. I'm going to walk you through why I didn't buy a property that on paper would have made over $100,000. Let's dive right in. We were under contract to purchase a set of 4 townhouses. Not like all in a row, but 3 of them were connected. One was in the next building in downtown Pensacola. And when I say like ready to go, private money had been raised, mortgages and notes had been drafted, full-blown inspections had been done, contractor was lined up, ready to go, kind of counting on the work, right? And then we got back our full-blown inspections, and the property manager was kind of a pain in the butt. It took us way longer than it should have to get the inspections done and back. Like, we were supposed to close on Friday, and it was the previous Friday that they finally got us in for inspections. And there was 4 units in like varying levels of, we'll call it grossness. Had like some bugs, some mold, some junk. Long story short, like quick recap on the numbers here. We were anticipating that we'd be able to sell each unit for right at $137,000. We were trying to purchase each unit for right at $65,000, and our goal was to spend about $25,000 a unit or $100,000 in construction all across the board. But that didn't end up working out. So I'm going to hop into just 2 of the inspections we got back and kind of show you what blew the budget and where this went wrong, as well as walk you through why I chose to walk. So we'll start with this one over here. So this was actually one of the nicer of the units. If you've ever, as we go through these pictures, this might seem familiar to you if you've ever been through like lower end hoodie type inventory. These were 1000% owned by somebody who's a slumlord, like self-insures them. You know, he might see this video and get upset about that, but I don't think you can look at these properties and how he was letting people live and argue otherwise. So kind of recurring themes with all of them. The back porch like sloped down towards the foundation, towards the back of the property. So pretty much all of those doors had issues. A lot of like wood rot, right? So on the front of the unit, like this wood that these arrows are pointing to, you could literally stick your finger in and like pull it out. The you know, soffit and fascia were in really rough shape. Now, these are like technically condos, but very, very C-class. One of the reasons that I chose to pass on this project, before we get into like rehab budget and what all that ended up looking like, the entire like street to get to these was absolutely destroyed. I actually kind of drove my truck through it because I'm a child and I wanted to splash in a big puddle. Our rehab didn't even include like trying to fix the street the way these would sell more quickly. Things going on here like peeling paint, you know, soft spots in the roof. There was sections on one of these that he literally like flex sealed. Like, come on, man. You know, you'd see back here like different colors, different kinds of shingles, sagging and buckling. Basically, the decking was totally trashed on all 4 of these. Oh yeah, here we go. So inside, right, water damage. Didn't necessarily look like mold, but definite like deterioration. This was one of the big kickers. So this was actually what I think totally blew this deal for us. So in Florida, this was new to me. I hadn't ran into this. They'll use aluminum wiring instead of copper, which makes it very, very hard to insure. The cost to update the wiring added about $9 grand a unit. So right there, almost $40,000. Pretty much all of the AC units were trashed. You know, not really cooling. Units were hot. So this was one of the units, and this one actually wasn't terrible, but you can see like water damage, ceiling cracking, horrible tape lines where they like tried to fix this. That's what you want to see, right? It's kind of a cool image, the heat penetration of kind of what was going on up in there. They had these I hadn't really seen, but they were like bug holes in the corners of the roof. The inspector said he thought that they were like a beetle type situation. They didn't see any actual like beetles up in the actual ceiling, but those were pretty consistent throughout. So this was one of the units. Again, you know, not horrible. I think all of them needed like new dishwashers, new appliances, new HVAC. This was one of those projects that you start to get into and it's like, where do we stop, right? So this was one of them. Oh, actually, sorry. This was one of the rougher ones. So this was why I called the dude a slumlord. Literally have mold in the ceiling, on the walls, in the shower, like that people were using still. So, you know, like that's the bathtub. And this is the only bathroom, or only full bath. They did have a half bath downstairs. Like literally needed full-blown guts to the bathrooms, needed all new fences out back. So that was one of the units. Here was another one. Look at that lovely roof, right? Almost all of them had like concrete damage. This was that back patio I talked about that was sloping in. Here's the roof that I lovingly mentioned that he'd like flex sealed sections of to try to fix. I don't even know what's going on here. I just know that that's not an acceptable version of a roof. That's what it looked like on the inside because of their half fixes on the outside. Again, aluminum wiring, AC not working. This one actually even had like a newer Goodman unit, but the coil in it just was totally dead. They all needed new water heaters, you know, some more like discoloration, more of the bug hole type thing, more of the bulging, right? More of like these cracked lines. I mean, it's a project like this. I did a 5 unit that looked kind of similar to this, and we ended up calling it our 5 unit from hell. It's kind of like, where do you start? Where do you stop? So, you know, you kind of get a little bit of an idea of the condition of these things. You know, tile that's not glued down anymore. Dishwasher that's leaking. Right. This wasn't like a carpet and paint remodel. This was going to be quite a bit more than that. They had a section where the valves, I'm assuming, had gone bad in the shower, so they just like cut into it and then tried to like ghetto retile it and leave it, which obviously didn't work. Let me show you where we thought we would end up on these versus where we actually ended up. So we were buying them each under contract for $65,000 a piece, so all in for $260K. Before we'd gotten in to see them, we'd anticipated $100,000 in renovations, which obviously ended up not working out. So we thought they'd go for $137 each when they were done, so $548,000. From there, you subtract out the $360 for purchase and renovation, left with $188,000 gross. Super, super solid deal. Room for contingencies if things go sideways or anything like that. Normally what I do when I'm doing these, just to try to like figure out a little bit closer to where I'm going to be, I'll multiply it by 0.96 to take out like 4% for realtor commissions, closing costs. So even that 526 minus the 360, $166,000, super solid deal as far as I'm concerned. And if we look at these like individually, 137, we use the 75% rule times 0.75 minus the cost of repairs, $25,000. I was buying at 65. That makes a lot of sense, right? Now, we didn't think it'd be 25 a unit. There's one that was in better shape than the other 3, arguably. So we thought it would be kind of like 15 a unit and then, you know, more on one, less on another kind of a thing. When it all came down to it, our budget actually ended up coming in at $185,000. Ouch, right? That's all new roofs, all new bathrooms, HVAC, having them rewired, fixing all of like the drywall that's coming in, all new decking, all new fences. We were going to do vinyl plank throughout with carpet in the bedrooms, right? A lot of work. And that included us doing some stuff like repainting cabinets and doing new hardware just to try to like save some costs. Let me show you where we would have ended up on these with our new budget. So at 137,000 times 4, we've got 548 minus 185 for construction. Oof. Minus our 260 for the purchase has us at grossing 103. But I know from projects like this, there's going to be other things that come up. So we're going to probably exceed that 185 after having been through these units. Holding costs, closing costs, realtor commissions. Realistically, that 103, we were maybe looking at 75,000 bucks, 80,000 bucks. I don't know about you, but tying up almost 500 grand, 450,000 bucks to try to make 70 or 80 doesn't make a ton of sense. I've got a flip right now I'm doing that I bought for 60. I'm putting 85 into it, and I'll probably make 80 on it when we sell it and it's all said and done. So to do all of this work for that same return just didn't make much sense. But let me show you why we were like, yeah, hey, we can't do this. Let's look at just one of these. So that 185, if we divide that by 4, was a $46,000 renovation per unit. So we look at that 137, 75% rule is 102. We subtract out the 46. The most we could pay for these units was 56,000 bucks due to everything else that came up. And unfortunately for us, the seller didn't want to retrade. He's going to go ahead and list them as is on the market for 65 and see if they sell. Personally, I don't really think they will. A couple other things with this project that made it just a no-go for us. On these 4 units, they were all tenant occupied. One of them had a lease that was ending in September. One of them had a lease that was ending in October. One was January. One was February. So realistically, to get this whole thing done, we were looking at 6 months into this project with 400 plus grand out to, in a perfect world, make 75 or 80 back. That just doesn't make sense. Plus, on top of that, I always tell my private lenders, I'm never going to borrow more than 75% of what a property is worth from them. So I couldn't, in good conscience, go and do this deal where I'm paying $10,000 more than my own principals tell me I should pay, even though I wanted it to close, right? This was one of those ones where like we thought we were going to make over 6 figures, ended up being maybe we'd make 70 or 80 if we put 6 months of our life into it, if we fixed the street, which wasn't even included in our financials. And on top of that, the neighborhood itself wasn't great. I was talking to one of the neighbors and I said, hey, what's crime like around here? And her response was, it's here. So kind of just gives you an idea. Sometimes you got to know when just to pass, even if you've got all the ducks lined up, even if you don't want to. I hope that you found this insightful. I haven't seen many of these videos done of like why I didn't do a deal. So figured you guys might find it enlightening and might make you feel a little bit better if you end up in my position where you've done everything, you've raised the private money, you've lined it all up, you're ready to go, and then it falls through at the 11th hour. Again, my name is Ryan Dossey. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If so, hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe. I'll talk to you guys next time.